Let's talk about diets. You start full of hope, maybe even see some results at first, but then bam, you find yourself right back where you started, maybe even worse off.
Yeah.
If that sounds familiar, well, you are definitely not alone.
Not at all. There's a pretty startling statistic, actually.
Yeah.
Something like 80% of diets fail within the first year.
80%.
And most people gain back any weight they lost within, say, 3 to 5 years. It's a common cycle.
So if you've been stuck in that kind of diet cycle, this deep dive is really for you.
Exactly. We want to unpack why these attempts so often fall short. But more importantly, we want to explore what actually works for the long haul.
Right.
Our mission here is really to look into why most diets fail and what actually works long term. We're drawing on, research and insights about typical diet pitfalls and looking at evidence-based sustainable alternatives.
We're trying to cut through all that noise, all the fad diet confusion,
Yeah.
to really get at the science, the psychology behind it, and, well, those consistent habits that actually lead to lasting results. Okay, so let's start with this cycle, this diet failure cycle. Where does it usually begin?
Often it kicks off with the appeal of a quick fix, diets promising really rapid results.
The miracle solution.
Yeah, exactly. And they usually involve pretty strict measures like cutting out whole food groups, drastically slashing calories, or having these super rigid eating rules.
Oh, I know that feeling. Have you ever, banned your favorite foods completely? Or maybe you've dealt with really complicated meal prep that just takes over your life?
Yeah.
Or finding it impossible to just go out and eat with friends?
It makes socializing so hard.
And that feeling of just being constantly hungry or deprived, it's just draining.
It really is. And that level of intense restriction, it often sets up what some people call the diet pendulum effect.
Pendulum effect.
Yeah, you create these really severe limits, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost inevitable that you'll eventually swing back hard the other way.
Like a rebel.
Kind of. It might look like binge eating or maybe just completely abandoning all those healthy habits you were trying to build. It just becomes unsustainable.
Okay, but here's the thing. It feels like it's not just about willpower, is it? Our bodies seem to have their own agenda.
That's absolutely right. It's not just in your head. Think about it from your body's perspective. It's wired for survival.
Okay.
So when you suddenly cut calories way down, your body interprets that as a threat, like maybe there's a famine happening.
Survival mode kicks in.
Precisely. So it adapts. It slows down your metabolism to conserve energy. You actually start burning fewer calories doing the exact same thing.
Seriously. So even if you're sticking to the diet, your body's working against you.
In a way, yes. It's actively fighting back against that extreme calorie deficit. This metabolic adaptation is a huge reason why that initial weight loss you might see just stalls.
Which is so incredibly frustrating and demotivating.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's not just metabolism. There are also these big shifts in your hunger hormones.
Hormones, too. Oh,
Yeah.
boy.
Yeah. When you lose weight, your body tends to produce less leptin. Leptin is the hormone that basically tells your brain, okay, I'm satisfied, stop eating.
So less on full signal.
Right. And at the same time, it ramps up production of ghrelin. Ghrelin is the hormone that shouts, feed me.
Oh, great. So you're hungrier.
And your body's telling you you're less full, all while burning fewer calories. It's like a perfect storm, making it really, really tough to maintain weight loss.
That sounds incredibly difficult.
And what's really fascinating, or maybe discouraging, depending on how you look at it, is research suggests these metabolic changes can stick around for years after you've lost the weight.
Years, not just while you're dieting.
No, for years afterward, which helps explain why keeping weight off long-term is such a common struggle.
Yeah.
It can feel like your biology is stacked against you.
Wow. That really paints a picture. And then, of course, there's the whole mental side of dieting. That feels just as critical.
Oh, absolutely. The psychological toll of restrictive dieting shouldn't be underestimated. The whole concept, the diet mentality, often creates a really unhealthy relationship with food.
How so?
Well, it becomes rooted in fear, guilt, anxiety, rather than seeing food as nourishment or something to be enjoyed.
You mean that labeling of foods like, this is good, this is bad?
Exactly that. It turns eating into this sort of moral battlefield, and then inevitably, when you eat a bad food,
You feel like a complete failure.
right, you feel shame, guilt, maybe even hopelessness. It just reinforces this negative cycle.
And disrupts just normal eating, I guess.
Totally. And think about the mental energy it takes. Constantly tracking calories, weighing food, avoiding the forbidden lists.
It's exhausting just thinking about it.
It really is. It leads to what we call diet burnout. People just get worn down by the constant vigilance.
And now what happens?
Often they just revert back sometimes even to habits that are less healthy than before they started the diet.
Okay, so we're seeing a clear pattern here. It's not just about willpower. There are real biological things happening, real psychological impacts. So, if all that restriction isn't the answer for the long term, what is?
Well, a really powerful shift is moving from that mindset of restriction to one of addition.
Addition. Tell me more.
Instead of always focusing on what you need to eliminate or cut out.
Which feels negative right away.
Exactly. Focus instead on what beneficial foods, what positive habits you can add into your life.
Okay, that sounds much more positive, much more doable. Can you give us some examples?
Sure. So instead of saying, right, no more carbs, maybe focus on adding more colorful vegetables to every meal you eat.
Okay, like adding, not subtracting.
Precisely. Or instead of just banning snacks altogether, think about adding in some protein-rich snacks, maybe some nuts or yogurt, things that actually help you feel full and satisfied between meals.
That makes sense.
The beauty of this approach, focusing on adding the good stuff, is that you're much less likely to trigger that feeling of deprivation.
And that psychological rebellion we talked about.
Exactly. You sidestep a lot of that resistance that comes with really strict rules. It feels less like punishment.
More like nourishing yourself.
Yes, precisely. And it feels like something you could actually stick with long term.
Okay, adding sounds good. What else is key for making changes last?
The other big thing is understanding the power of small, consistent habits. It's really quite remarkable.
Not the huge overhaul.
Not usually, no. We often think we need this massive, dramatic change to get results, but honestly, those rarely stick. Small, incremental changes are much more likely to become permanent parts of your life.
Why is that?
Because tiny habits, things that require very little willpower, they build momentum. They create a solid foundation for lasting change without feeling overwhelming.
I like the sound of tiny habits. What kind of things are we talking about? Give us some examples.
Okay, think really small. Maybe adding just a 10-minute walk after dinner each day.
Manageable.
Or making sure you include some protein with your breakfast. Even simpler, drinking a glass of water before each meal. Or trying to get a little sunlight first thing in the morning. Or maybe just taking 5 deep breaths before you start eating.
Those sound almost too simple.
But that's the point. They're simple enough to do consistently, and when you do these small actions day after day, they build powerful, healthy rhythms in your life, often without that internal resistance you get when you try to change everything at once.
Little nudges, not a giant shove. Okay. Now, this next point in our research was interesting. Supportive daily rituals, including things like herbal tonics and supplements. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, this is an area gaining more scientific attention. The idea is incorporating supportive daily rituals can gently help your body's natural processes. This might include using certain traditional herbal preparations or targeted supplements.
How would they help with weight management specifically?
Well, some herbs, for instance, seem to help with balancing blood sugar levels. That can be really helpful for managing cravings.
Yeah, interesting.
Others might support gut health, which we know is crucial for overall well-being. Some herbs, known as adaptogens, can help the body cope with stress. And stress hormones play a big role in weight.
Right. We'll get to stress more in a bit.
And some might offer gentle support for metabolic functions.
Can you give an example? What might a supportive herbal tonic look like?
Sure. A simple daily tonic might include something like cinnamon, which has research behind it for blood sugar regulation.
Okay.
Maybe some dandelion root, traditionally used for liver support. And perhaps an adaptogen like ashwagandha, which is well studied for helping manage the body's stress response.
So it's not a magic bullet.
Definitely not. But contrast this with a highly restrictive diet. Adding a simple ritual like this takes minimal effort, but it could offer significant support by addressing some of those underlying physiological factors that make weight management tricky for some people. Think of it as a gentle nudge, supporting the body's balance.
A different angle entirely. Less about fighting your body, more about supporting it. And speaking of underlying factors, sleep and stress. We can't ignore those, can we?
Absolutely not. You really can't have a meaningful conversation about sustainable health or weight management without talking seriously about sleep and stress. They have a massive impact.
On what exactly?
On your hunger hormones, for one, also on your metabolism, and directly on your eating behaviors.
We've all been there, right? A terrible night's sleep, and the next day all you want is junk food.
There's a clear biological reason for that. When you're sleep deprived, your body actually produces more ghrelin, remember the I'm hungry hormone,
Yep.
and it produces less leptin, the I'm full hormone.
The double whammy again.
Exactly. It creates this biological drive to eat more, And importantly, the cravings tend to be for high-calorie, high-carbohydrate foods specifically.
Is the effect significant?
It can be. Studies have shown that even just one night of poor sleep can lead people to eat an extra 300 to 500 calories the next day without even realizing it.
Wow, just from one bad night.
Uh,
And stress. How does that play in?
Chronic stress is a big one. It leads to elevated levels of cortisol.
The stress hormone.
Right, and cortisol actively encourages your body to store fat, especially around the abdomen.
Not ideal.
Not at all. Plus, stress is a major trigger for emotional eating. Research suggests stressed individuals might consume around 40% more calories compared to when they're not stressed.
40%, that's huge.
It is. So, honestly, prioritizing good sleep habits, sleep hygiene, and finding effective ways to manage stress, things like meditation, deep breathing, even just gentle movement, that can often be more impactful for long-term health and weight than following the strictest diet imaginable while you're chronically stressed and exhausted. Does that make sense from your experience?
It makes total sense. It just shows how everything is connected. It's not just about food and isolation. Okay, so we know restriction often fails. And we know we need to add good habits, manage sleep and stress. How do we build this more sustainable framework? Where do we start?
A really fundamental piece is reconnecting with your body's own signals through mindful eating.
Mindful eating. We hear that term a lot. What does it actually mean in practice?
Well, think about it. Before our culture became saturated with diet rules and external advice, humans relied mostly on internal cues: hunger, fullness, satisfaction.
Okay, listening to your body.
Exactly. Mindful eating is about tuning back into those signals, really paying attention. It helps you distinguish between actual physical hunger and, say, eating out of boredom, stress, or habit.
Learning the difference.
Yes, and becoming more aware of when you're comfortably full, which can naturally help you eat appropriate amounts without needing to count or measure. It's also about slowing down, savoring your food, getting more enjoyment from it.
So it's not just what you eat, but how you eat.
Precisely. And choosing foods based on how they make you feel physically, not just based on external rules. Interestingly, studies suggest people who practice mindful eating tend to naturally choose more nutritious foods and eat suitable portions without needing strict diets.
Tuning back in. I like that. Okay, what else helps build this sustainable framework?
Building a supportive environment is huge. Seriously, our surroundings often dictate our choices more than we realize, maybe even more than willpower does.
Environment over willpower.
Often, yes. So instead of constantly battling temptation, think about designing your environment to make the healthy choice the easy choice.
Okay, how do we do that? Give us some practical tips.
Well, simple things. Keep nutritious foods visible and easy to grab in your kitchen. Put the fruit bowl out. Keep healthy snacks at eye level in the fridge.
And make the good stuff obvious.
Right. Using smaller plates can actually help you feel satisfied with smaller portions. It's a neat psychological trick.
Okay.
Maybe create a bit of distance from those less healthy foods you find really tempting. If the cookies are out of sight, you're less likely to grab them mindlessly.
Out of sight, out of mind, sometimes.
It helps. And things like establishing regular times and places for meals can help regulate your body's hunger cues too. The main point is, shaping your environment takes less ongoing mental effort than constantly making decisions and resisting urges. It helps create sustainable patterns.
Setting yourself up for success. Makes sense. And what about other people? The social side of things.
Ah, yes, the social factor. It's incredibly important. We're social beings, and our networks have a massive influence on our health behaviors. Research backs this up consistently.
So surrounding yourself with the right people matters.
Absolutely. Actively cultivating a supportive social environment can make a huge difference.
What would that look like, practically speaking?
It could be finding a workout buddy. Exercise is often more fun, and you're more likely to stick with it if you do it with someone else.
Accountability partners.
Exactly. Or maybe cooking healthy meals together with friends or family makes it more collaborative, less of a chore.
Yeah.
Joining groups or communities online or in person that share your health values can provide amazing support and belonging.
Finding your tribe.
Kind of. And even just simple accountability check-ins with a friend can help you stay on track with your goals. The social connection really matters. There's data suggesting people with supportive health communities are significantly more likely, maybe up to 57% more likely, to maintain healthy habits long term.
57%. That's a really powerful statistic. It definitely shows we don't have to go it alone.
Not at all. Support is key.
Okay, so if we bring all these threads together, restriction often fails due to biology and psychology. The key is adding good things, small habits, supporting our bodies, managing sleep and stress, shaping our environment, and connecting with others. What's the big takeaway message?
I think the core message is this. Lasting sustainable health isn't found in the next fad diet or quick fix. It's built
Built how?
through consistent, small, positive actions, through creating environments that support you, and through developing habits that work with your body's natural wisdom, not constantly fighting against it.
So really shifting away from that deprivation mindset.
Yes, embracing addition over elimination, recognizing the value of gentle, supportive practices, maybe those herbal allies we mentioned, and absolutely prioritizing sleep and stress management. They aren't optional extras, they're foundational.
It sounds like a journey, not just a destination.
Exactly right. It's not about being perfect or sticking to rigid rules 100% of the time. It's about consistent, imperfect action moving in the right direction.
So perhaps instead of always asking ourselves, which diet is the right one for me?
Maybe the better question to ask is, what's one small, sustainable habit I can start today that my future self will genuinely thank me for?
That's a great thought to end on.
Think about it. How can you apply just one of these ideas, gently, in your own life, starting now? That's the real deep dive.